Are you being audited by the IRS for your cryptocurrency transactions and how you reported them? Have you received a tax notice in the mail and you're trying to figure out what are the next steps that I should take to protect my bottom line as well as my sanity during this process? That's what I want to go over during this video. I want to go over some essential tips to help you navigate an IRS audit and what to do if you do receive one of these tax notices in the mail. So, the first thing I want to point out is that this is going to be a stressful ordeal, but just because you got one of these tax notices in the mail or just because you're facing an audit doesn't necessarily mean that there's any wrongdoing on your end or that you've even reported anything incorrectly. These are routine procedures. These notices go out very often to taxpayers. And it's, part of our tax systems process to verify the accuracy of the filings of taxpayers. So do not get too alarmed if you see one of these notices, but we need to take it seriously and we need to take the right steps. Step number one, if you receive correspondence from the IRS related to an audit or even just getting a tax notice, you need to review this notice. You want to just really check it for basic things like, is it addressed to you and to your right address? What tax years is the tax notice covering? What specific areas of your tax return are being audited? Is it specific reporting from certain exchanges? Is this related to cryptocurrency income that you've earned, the capital gains or losses that you claimed, or is it a combination of all of these? And then you need to review that audit notice and see what next steps should you take. Usually on these audit notices, it's going to include a deadline for you to respond to the notice. And at that point, you're going to need to make sure that you take whatever actions are necessary that are specified in that notice within that time frame. Now, if you want to, really what you should be doing after this step is reaching out to a CPA that can assist you with this process. So when you receive that notice, if it is a short time frame that you don't believe you're going to be able to work within, it may make sense to even contact the IRS via the contact information on that notice and request an extension and notify them that you're working with the tax professional. Now, some of these notices may actually request that you book a meeting or appear in person before the IRS. If it's that type of notice, you are facing a more severe and complicated type of audit, and it makes even more sense to contact a tax professional as soon as possible. So, how is a CPA or how is a tax lawyer really going to help you throughout this audit process? They can help you in a lot of ways. They're going to help you throughout the negotiation process with the IRS, which can lead to you ultimately paying less taxes, interest, and penalties. They can help you from a time and stress perspective in just dealing with the IRS and the back and forth and all the correspondences that go with that. That, again, saves you not only time, but stress. And additionally, a CPA that's experienced in crypto can go a long way in these audits because of their experience in cryptocurrency accounting and all of the nuanced tax matters that are within this space. So if you're going under this audit or you're facing scrutiny for your crypto activity, it makes sense to work with an experienced crypto CPA. So once you've received the notice, you've reviewed it, you've reached out to an experienced crypto CPA like our team at Camuso CPA, the next thing we would really do is start to sit down and make a game plan. We would sort of take these same steps that you have taken in reviewing the notice, seeing what's getting audited, and then making a comprehensive plan from there. Usually, if you're facing scrutiny for your cryptocurrency activity, our starting point is going to be accurately doing your calculations so that we can compare that to whatever is being reported on the tax notice from the IRS. Once we have those accurate calculations, we can compare it to what's being reported, and then we can start to draft a response to the IRS that is citing any differences in our calculations versus their calculations. We can substantiate that with documentation related to your transactions and start to create a defensible position for you during this audit process. So that is the real key, is that, we're going to have to really take a look at first year accounting before we can even get to building a defensible position for you. Now, one thing I want to add here is that we're seeing a ton of audits right now for people that have basically, been using the latest and greatest cryptocurrency accounting software, and they sort of bought into this myth that it's just plug and play. You can enter in your wallets, enter in your exchanges, and get an accurate tax output. That's almost never the case. And what we're seeing is that there are reporting discrepancies between what taxpayers are claiming and the information the IRS has on file. Sometimes the information the IRS has on file isn't totally accurate because they don't have all your cost basis data. But sometimes the information that you're providing isn't accurate because you've done the calculations incorrectly. And sometimes we see both. The IRS is wrong and you're wrong. And that's why we need to do an accurate calculation for you and then start to work with the IRS on arriving at a resolution for them. So a few things, when you're answering questions and responding to the IRS, you want to make sure that you answer their questions in a full, clear, and concise manner. And you want to be transparent with them. You don't want to be deceiving of them or holding back any information that they requested. If they request specific documentation from you, such as your transaction history, wallet addresses, or anything else that they request, you should provide them that specific documentation. You shouldn't provide them anything above and beyond that, but anything that they request, you should be providing them. And this underscores the fact that if you do get audited, what this all really comes down to is the accuracy of your accounting and how well you've documented that with your audit trail and with your source documentation from the various exchanges and wallets that you've been transacting on. So it's extremely important that you are keeping that documentation throughout this whole process, because in the event of an audit, if you've done your accounting correctly and you have all this documentation, it can make the process go much smoother and help bring your costs down because you're not going to have to rework all of your accounting. So the last thing is like, once we get to the end stages of the resolution, if you're still not happy with the audit results, you still have a right to appeal the audit decision as a last step and go through that appeals process. This will involve submitting a written protest in which you basically outline your disagreements with the audit findings, provide supporting documentation and legal arguments that back up your position. And then this will give you the opportunity to have your case reviewed by a different person within the IRS, one that's independent of the original audit team. So, this can be helpful in the event where you're just not really agreeing with the results of an audit. So, those are some of the preliminary tips. This would sort of be like a 30,000 foot view of what I would say to somebody if I was speaking to them in the first like 10 to 15 minutes of a consultation and they told me that they got a tax notice. So if you are facing this issue, if you've received a tax notice from the IRS regarding your cryptocurrency activity, or if you're undergoing an audit and you need to work with a CPA to help you through this process and represent you, don't hesitate to reach out to my team at camusocpa.com. We are one of the first firms in this space for cryptocurrency, and we've been serving clients successfully since 2016. So when it comes to cryptocurrency and tax matters, Camuso CPA has you covered. Contact me and my team today at camusocpa.com.